Good evening. I call to order this meeting of the Gladstone City Council for Tuesday, October 14th, 2025. It's 6:30 p.m. The City of Gladstone is abiding by guidelines set forth in House Bill 2560, which requires the governing body of the public body, to the extent reasonably possible, to make all meetings accessible remotely through technological means and provide opportunity for members of the general public to remotely submit oral and written testimony during meetings to the extent that in-person oral and written testimony is allowed. Therefore, this meeting will be open to the public both in person and virtually using the Zoom platform. The Zoom platform instructions are printed on the agenda of the meeting. If members of the public would like to comment on an agenda item, either virtually or in person, they were to have emailed their comments or their request to speak to the city recorder prior to noon today. Individuals attending in person may submit a speaker card to the city recorder prior to the beginning of the meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. The City Council will also have Gladstone City event announcements during the meeting and business from the audience at the end of the meeting. To speak during either time, again, you were to have emailed your request or submitted a card to the city recorder. Individuals attending in person may submit a speaker card, and comments, again, are limited to 3 minutes. Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Councillor Huckabee.
Present.
Councillor Mitchell. Councillor Blau.
Present.
Councillor Levante.
Present.
Councillor Corbett.
Present.
Councillor Garlington.
Present.
Mayor Milch.
Present. Let the record show that Councillor Mitchell was excused. She requests to be excused for medical reasons. We have special guests tonight. American Heritage Girls Troop OR 0207 is here for a presentation.
Guard, attend. John. Audience, please rise for the advancing and presenting of the color. Please remove your hats. Please place your right hand over your heart. Bears, carry, colors. Guard, right, turn. Forward, march. Left turn, march. Halt. Bears, set. Guard, present, colors. Audience, please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Guard, order, colors. Guard, ready, step. Guard, hold. Audience, please be seated. Guard, follow.
They have requested a brief photo op. I'll be right back.
Can I say something in the meantime? And that is just, as a veteran, again, I think I told you guys this out in the parking lot, but you guys make me proud. You did a fantastic job and great marching.
Smile, Chad.
Yeah, you want to stand, I think.
Oh.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Troop. A presentation like that is a good reminder of who we are and what we value as a nation. I'd also like to say a few words tonight about who we are as a people who inhabit this land. The city of Gladstone, Oregon is situated on the traditional lands of the Clackamas, Chinook, and Kalapuya tribes. The rich history, culture, and contributions of these indigenous peoples who stewarded this land for thousands of years is worthy of acknowledgement and appreciation. I am grateful for the opportunity to live, work, and gather on these ancestral lands and to commit to learning from the wisdom and resilience of the indigenous communities that continue to shape the region. Moving forward, I want us all to strive to build relationships based on mutual respect, understanding, and collaboration with one another, to work together to protect and preserve the natural beauty and resources of this area, and to ensure a sustainable and harmonious future for all who call Gladstone home. And tonight we also have a proclamation requested by a Safe Place Family Justice Center to observe Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I'd like to read that proclamation to you now. Whereas domestic violence is a serious crime in Clackamas County that affects people of all races, ages, gender, and income levels, and whereas family is the foundation of a safe and healthy community, and it is the goal of Clackamas County for our communities to be safe, and whereas more than 16 million people in the United States suffer from intimate partner abuse per year in the United States, and whereas 32 people experience intimate partner violence in the United States every minute, and whereas 30.3% of families involved with the Department of Human Services Child Welfare Department had domestic violence as a component of their case in 2024. And whereas 1,106 victims of domestic violence requested a protection order in Clackamas County in 2024. Whereas 812 victims accessed wraparound services for the first time at a Safe Place Family Justice Center for a total of 3,400 visits in 2024. And whereas victims should have help to find the compassion, comfort, and healing they need, and abusers should be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. And whereas only a coordinated community effort will put a stop to this serious crime. And whereas Domestic Violence Awareness Month provides an excellent opportunity for people to learn more about preventing domestic violence and to show support for the numerous organizations and individuals who provide critical advocacy, services, and assistance to victims. Now, therefore, be it resolved. I, Michael Milch, Mayor of the City of Gladstone, do hereby proclaim October 2025 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Gladstone, and encourage all citizens of the city to join in this observance and to learn more about what they can do to help end domestic violence, both individually and collectively. In witness hereof, I have hereunto set my hand this 14th day of October, 2025. Michael Milch, Mayor of Gladstone, Oregon. Do we have any representatives of the organization here tonight? Would you like to come forward and say a few words? I do have a copy of the resolution to present to you. You could push the button there. You'll be heard.
Thank you and good evening. My name is Erin Hinkleman. I'm the director for Safe Place Family Justice Center and an employee of Clackamas County Sheriff's Office, as we're the lead for this center. So thank you, Mayor Milch and members of the commission, for proclaiming October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Each year, this month offers a powerful opportunity to honor the strength and resilience of survivors, while also recognizing the continued work required to ensure safety, healing, and justice for all who are impacted. Domestic Violence Awareness Month reflects our community's shared commitment to creating safe, inclusive spaces and to standing together to break the silence that too often surrounds domestic violence. This year, we join the national movement in embracing the theme, "With Survivors Always." This theme underscores the importance of true partnership, standing with survivors not just in word, but in action. It reminds us that safety, support, and solidarity must remain at the center of our work. It is both a tribute and a call to action for all who are committed to advocating for the rights and needs of survivors. We are deeply grateful for your role in this movement, and together we are not only raising awareness, we are rewriting this story, a story that's rooted in safety, dignity, and hope for everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Erin.
Yeah.
And our efforts to address this important issue would not be complete without the help of our state legislators who care about this issue and work hard. And we have representatives from Representative Vanessa Hartman's office here with us tonight. If you'll come forward. And
thanks for having me.
You're welcome, Daniel. Again, push the button.
Push the button. Yeah, so I'm Daniel Mulkey. I am Representative Vanessa Hartman's Chief of Staff. I'm hoping at some point we might have a surprise for you guys, but without seeing that possibility at the moment, we're going to just go forward and see what happens. Got a little PowerPoint, a little bit of a presentation for you. Really excited to have people from A Safe Place here. Yeah, just appreciate all the work that they do every day. It's really, really hard and critical work, and we just are grateful for whatever we can do on the state level to try to help them. So that being said, we're going to talk about some of our session victories. Yes. Up and down. There we go. Okay, up and down, and it's not.
And it works best if you can see the mouse on the screen, I think.
Down. I press down again.
We'll go next slide, please.
Okay, we're going to just say next slide. So one of the basically our office has become one of the lead, basically the lead office for survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault in the legislature. Rep. Hartman herself is a survivor of sexual assault, and so she's brought a lived experience and a real conviction for helping survivors to the work that she's done in the building. And so we've brought a lot, and there she is. What I say, we had a surprise for you. Nice. We're just getting started.
Wonderful.
So we've brought survivors bills every session that Rep. Hartman has been in office. Her first session, we brought the Campus Survivors Act. It was a huge bill. It's basically what's codifying protections for women, trans students, LGBT students on campuses of higher education right now. Provided victims advocates, confidential advocates, made sure that they were protected both on and off campus. So that was really huge. And then 2024, we brought another bill to help people get restraining orders, basically, so they could get restraining orders in both the county that they live and where they work. So that was another big, huge victory. And then this past session, we brought a series of bills, including this one that's up here, removing the civil statutes of limitation for child abuse and sexual assault. Do you want to talk about that, or?
Sure.
Apologies.
I forgot the rules. Apologies for my tardiness, and I'm glad that I could be here with you all. I was supposed to be traveling, but life happens. So good evening. So House Bill 3582 is probably one of my proudest moments in terms of the work that we have done over the past 3.5 years, and listening to community and trying to understand like what is needed within the survivor community, particularly with those that experienced child sex abuse. This bill has been attempted, or removing statutes of limitations have been attempted for, I think, well over 2 decades. And so we really came into this space wanting to learn why it didn't pass in previous sessions. So I mentioned this on my floor speech, and I mentioned it again, that while this bill is a great forward step, we did have to, I would say negotiate's the right word, but in order to even give it a chance to see light, we had to remove the retroactivity piece before it could even have a public hearing. And we knew that to some extent going in to this conversation, but you know, I want someone to tell me that you can't do that, or we have to remove that before we actually do it. So I point that out because there's still work for us to do in that space. But this is a huge win. If anyone has been following the Dr. Farley case, this bill really stems and centers their experience. And we had quite a bit of them show up and testify for the first time in their lives. And so it was a really hot, like really tall mountain to climb, and kind of showed to me politics' ugly side in terms of what we negotiate and talk about in bills, and how we do not often center policy around those that are experiencing the policy. And so in the end, when it passed unanimously out of both chambers, it was a huge win. It was a huge win. So very excited.
And for just to bring it, like for those of you who might not know, statutes of limitation, basically it's the time limit that a victim has to bring their case forward in our courts. And so we're talking about civil courts, not criminal courts. We're talking about civil, where victims are trying to get basically money from some of the institutions that allowed abuse to happen to them. And so previously it was 5 years from the discovery of basically the connection between the victim's harm, what's happened to them, and they have five years between after that, or until they're 40, or 5 years after somebody's sexually assaulted. And now that's gone. So we've done away with those time limits, and victims from here on out can bring claims whenever. We did have a slight retroactivity piece for some of Dr. Farley's victims, and that was really important to be able to make sure that they have their day in court and they can seek justice. Yeah, I can try to press this, or I don't think it's working. So next slide, if you don't mind. Thank you.
How much time do we have?
Yeah, how much time do we have?
I don't want to give too much time. So this is another one that we did in conjunction with, as a bipartisan bicameral bill for basically banning AI-generated inappropriate images. I don't know if the kids are still in here.
No,
I saw kids in the parking lot. We are one of few states, the trend is happening across the country, where these AI-generated images have been causing really a lot of pain and harm. We had a mom and a daughter who have been experiencing this for well over 10 years now, and the images that an ex-partner was creating of the two of them were just in horrible situations, and were selling them on the black market, and there was no recourse for them to hold them accountable. And so another one that we were really proud of, also passed unanimously out of both chambers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Next slide, please. I don't think so. You can try.
This is another big win for us that we started working on with the DA's office. I will explain it in layman's terms, Anessa, because I am not the lawyer. And then if there are more specific questions for the lawyer here. So up until this bill passed, if you were in a domestic relationship and were assaulted or beaten and strangled, those crimes could be merged together if you were in a domestic partnership. But if I'm just running down and then all those same three things happen to me, they could be charged all three because I was not in a relationship with that person. And so there was a loophole that led to these lighter sentences for strangulation when in domestic partnerships. And so this bill corrects that loophole and allows for them to be able to have the full judgment that they deserve. I don't know if I missed.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that was great.
That was the spark notes of it. I'm gonna try.
Yeah, please.
No, it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. If you can figure it out. Yeah, I mean, strangulation we know is just one of the leading indicators that somebody's going to be murdered by their partner, and so we want to make sure that we treat it seriously. I mean, I think in our view, it's like akin to attempted murder, even if we don't charge it that way. Like, I think there's a growing consensus that really, if you put your arms around somebody's neck, there's a high likelihood that they could die either then or at a future point. So yeah, it's really important for us.
And if you don't know, while we're figuring out the pointer, Clackamas County has been a leader in fighting for strangulation policy at the state level for the past well over a decade, in terms of calling attention to the differences that it brings to those who have experienced that. So shout out to our Clackamas County team. Yeah,
Clackamas County's Victims Services, they actually print out and create all these strangulation kits that they then distribute to a lot of the hospitals and medical clinics in the metro area, I think even farther than the metro area, to help people identify if there was a strangulation or not. So it's, really ahead of
Yeah.
the curve.
Another one that it's like, this is really a heavy day. Talking about all these things. I was like, wow, we did a lot. This one was actually like, we had such great support. We are in partnership with a couple other legislators to work on this, but essentially it just makes it illegal to send unwanted sexually explicit photos. So like if you were to flash someone on the street, this is the same thing. People were in like a crowded space and just like airdropping or those sort of things. So that was one of the earlier ones that passed through both chambers. These are just a couple others. We were just partners on the House side to support these, banning child marriages. Yeah, if you're as shocked as I was, and I was like, oh, okay, that's a thing. Cool. We were able to pass that. And we also, the trauma-informed training for our judges was, and I think we talk about that a little bit later, but it really goes through training around like what to look for and how to speak to a survivor without making it sound like they are, being interrogated in a way that is not like conducive to them wanting to tell you their story. So that was a big win for us here. And then the protecting survivors from speaking out. No retaliatory lawsuits are allowed. Next slide. This is just which I'm wanting to provide an update on where our victim services funding. If you're on, you'll hear us say VOCA quite a bit, Victims of Crime Act. That includes more than just our domestic violence shelters and those services. It includes our children's advocacy centers, which are so important. But we are still waiting. The federal funding was cut by about 80%. As it says there, 75% of our CACs, the children advocacy centers, have already begun laying off staff across the state. If you want to go to the next slide, AG Rayfield has filed a lawsuit, and I think that's still in process. But hopefully with that, we'll be able to retain some of the funding that we are missing that was cut. And then we also were able to secure $400,000, which is not a lot. It feels like a lot, but enough money for the SANE, the sexual assault nurse examiners kits that provide those exams and the evidence that is needed for prosecutions. And then within that judges training bill as well, we helped secure that $776 for the training. So.
Yeah. If we go back to that last slide. So the Attorney General, Dan Rayfield, they were successful so far. The federal government decided to remove the restrictions. That was the last update we heard, at least. So there was going to be a $15 million additional to the $23.5 million that we've already seen in cuts. It was another $15 million that were at risk. And because of the Attorney General's lawsuit, that money is now coming to Oregon. So we're not even deeper in the hole as we would have otherwise been. Yeah.
Just some, yeah. It was just some resources, some are probably watching or here. Just what we have locally, all within a 15-minute real, drive to us that help our neighbors and across the county doing amazing work. So just wanted to share that because I know it's public record and people can find more services there. Questions?
We will make this presentation available on the website since you brought it to us tonight. Are there questions from any counselors?
All I have to say is thank you. This is huge. I mean, this is huge. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you from me as well, and to all of you who contributed to tonight's focus on this important issue and the ongoing work that the legislatures and organizations are doing. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
All right, Administrator Betts, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda for tonight?
I have nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. As usual, we will begin with our consent agenda, which tonight includes approval of the September 9th, 2025 regular minutes, approval of the August bank balances, the budget report for the period ending August 30th, approval of August check register, legal costs for the month of July, Department head monthly reports for September 2025. And then consideration of an amendment to the personal services agreement between the City of Gladstone and Healthy Sustainable Communities LLC to complete urban renewal, economic development, tourism, and community promotions initiatives, and police department vehicle purchase of one Ford F-150 and one Ford Explorer police patrol vehicles. Would anyone on the council like to pull any of these items from the consent agenda?
7, please.
All right, it's been requested that we pull item 7. Anyone else? All right, is there a motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded by Councilors Huckabee and Garlington respectively, I believe. Okay. Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Corbett,
Yes.
Counselor Labonte,
Yes.
Counselor Blau,
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes, the consent agenda, except item 7, is approved. And now we'll go to item 7. Would you like to have a staff report or a question or?
Well, I just, for anybody who might be watching or, there's 7, there's a lot there. And I was just wondering if Jackie, if you'd be kind enough just to kind of explain what the, to the folks here, what that change, the agreement is, what is it exactly that we're voting for, just so folks know.
Well, just high level, we had a limited duration economic development position that ended June 30th, 2025. At that time, we did not know if we were going to fill that position or if we were going to look for consulting work that had expertise in economic development. It was more cost effective to hire an expert in economic development. The city entered into an initial contract for them to complete projects in economic development for us. So specifically, what that means is beautification program development in the urban renewal district. They're going to do a street improvement plan support and open house coordination on Portland Avenue. Also going to focus on enhancing our Main Street program, which we have initially applied for that. We're going to be working and having conversations on the I-205 corridor property repositioning opportunities. Also, they're taking the lead on the library redevelopment opportunity for the former library site. And they're also working on community and economic development promotions. We'll be partnering with the University of Oregon to have the graduate students help us on some of these projects on Portland Avenue. So the additional additions also include having them review our tourism plan and helping us implement some of those measurements from there. So there are 7 tasks identified over the next year that this company is going to help the city initiate and complete.
Thank you, Jackie. And may I just ask one more question regarding the 205 corridor? Could you maybe just put a little texture or color to that?
Yeah, so specifically, that's the Seventh-day Adventist property. And we just want to have conversations with the board there to talk about if there's any future potential uses that they're looking at. Make sure they understand how it's zoned, what they could do there. And also if Clackamas County is interested in participating in those conversations, that is the specific project for the I-205.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor Labonte. I think it was important to, for the public to know a little bit more about that and see how detailed this is. Economic development is our #1 goal. And the public doesn't always see how we put it into effect. So I'm glad you brought this up. And so we have an opportunity now to approve this particular item, item 7, if someone would like to make a motion.
And I move to approve.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded by Councilor Labonte and Councilor Huckabee, respectively. Any further discussion? All right, Tammy, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Corbett,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Counselor Blau,
Yes.
Counselor Levante,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes, item 7 is approved. I don't believe we have any correspondence tonight. We've come to the time in our meeting where we have given opportunity for local groups to make announcement of Gladstone City events coming up. And we have some requests to do that.
We have two. First is Glenda Shearer.
Glenda, come forward, please. And push the button. Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Hi, hey there. My name is Glenda Shearer. I'm a local business owner. I have two announcements. One is mine and one's not mine, but I think it's important. On November 18th at 5:30 p.m. at the high school, the superintendent of Gladstone School District is presenting a facilities bond conversation about a possible general obligation bond. And I think that's important just that it doesn't miss anybody's, everybody has that on their radar. That's the weekend that's the week before the Thanksgiving break. And so there's just an announcement and I thought that was important. And then the next one is mine. I run a micro school, and through my micro school, I actually do community education from time to time on various topics. And so last year I taught a class on bonds, levies, and taxes. And this year I'm on November 8th, which is a Saturday, from 2 to 3 p.m., I'm going to be teaching a class called Understanding Your Property Taxes. And this will be at the new Oak Grove Library, 3811 Southeast Concord. And on a side note, if you have not had an opportunity to visit that facility, it is beautiful. So November 8th, 2 to 3 p.m. And I think that room has capacity for about 45 to 50 people. So,
all right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. And
Yes, it is free. Yeah. Yep.
I see Dr. Bob Everett here tonight. I assume you are our second presenter.
He is.
All right, come forward, please. Share one with me. Thank you.
The band itself. I have two events that are coming up. One, we are starting up. By the way, my name's Bob Everett, and I live here in Gladstone. I also have a business here. But we are starting up. Gladstone Oak Lodge Rotary Bingo this Friday night. It's going to be at the community center. Doors open at 4:50. Bingo starts at 5:30. Bingo Bill will be there, making his normal melodic voice, and we'll be serving food. And Cat's Meow is going to be our partner. We had them last year. There was a lot of people there, a lot of activity. It was a lot of fun, and I've heard tell that they're going to be bringing a number of people and some good raffle prizes. So hopefully you see everybody there this Friday night at the community center. The second event, which is sponsored by the community center and also the Gladstone Senior Foundation, is this band, the Madoka Swing Band. It will be Saturday, October 25th, the Gladstone High School, 2 to 3. It's free. It will be like a big band sound, as they say, sort of a swing band, playing music from the 30s and the 40s. It's basically, they formed, their relative, basically their relatives were interred Japanese Americans. And they formed this band to bring awareness of that sort of situation and to just educate people a little bit on that. Again, this is a free event. Sounds like it should be a lot of fun. I've gotten some good feedback from people, so hopefully see a number of you there. And I've got a few more handouts, and I got some pictures of the band and sort of their group. But come on around and join us. I'll be in the front doing something. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm not playing music, but I might be dancing, but you never know. So I like to dance. So, but that's all I have. Any questions or anything? So,
All right. Thank you very much.
okay. Thank you so much. Yep. Hope to see you there.
All right, we move to our regular agenda tonight. We have, let's see, several items, including an ordinance regarding comprehensive plan text amendments to Title 17 of the Gladstone Municipal Code to comply with some Oregon revised statute regarding limited land use decisions. We will be appointing members to the Gladstone Library Blue Ribbon Committee to guide the future reuse of the former library building. We have presentation about the Gladstone Nature Park Bird Pavilion, and then we will adjourn to be the Gladstone Urban Renewal Agency for in order to authorize certain city officials to withdraw transfer funds, and then we'll come back and reconvene for the rest of our business. So item 10 on the agenda, ordinance 1543. I see we have our planner here with us tonight. So Heather, if you would like to present that to us.
Thank you, Mayor Milch. And there should be a legislative script for
Yes.
this one as well that we should probably kick it off with.
Okay. All right, so this is the public hearing on ordinance 1543, which is called to order. The proposed amendments would make critical updates to our municipal code, and this is city file TXT-25-03. The order of business we'll follow in conducting this hearing will be A, presentation of the staff report, B, entry of correspondence, if any, into the record, C, public testimony, D, additional staff comments, E, questions from the city council. Then we will close the hearing and allow no further testimony from the audience, and there will be discussion by the city council and a decision. Testimony will be done in this way. Any interested person may present testimony concerning the proposed amendments. The public hearing is your opportunity to comment on the proposal before the city makes a decision. We want to hear what you have to say, and we want you to give us your point of view. Help us to understand why you've drawn your conclusion and how it relates to the proposal. Public testimony for this hearing will be called for in 3 groups: testimony in favor of the proposal, testimony opposed to the proposal, and neutral testimony. If you wish to speak, you should have filled out one of the testimony forms and submitted to the city recorder. I will recognize those persons wishing to speak, and any questions should be addressed through me. When you testify, please state your name and address for the record, as this hearing is being recorded. If you're participating online, click the raise hand button at the appropriate time and wait to be recognized. And if you are participating via telephone, dial *9 to raise your hand at the appropriate time and wait to be recognized. At this time, I would like to ask members of the city council, if you are abstaining from this matter or need to declare any conflicts of interest, please indicate the nature of the conflict of interest and indicate whether you intend to participate in or abstain from the hearing. So I'll start at my right with Councilor Huckabee.
No conflict participating.
Okay.
No conflict participating.
No conflict, and I am participating.
No conflict participating.
No conflict participating.
And the same for me. Text amendments rarely have conflict of interest issues, but that's part of the script and we go through that. So at this point, we are ready then for the staff report to introduce what all this is about.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Mayor Milch. Tammy's just queuing up a presentation for us so we can talk about the proposed changes. Looks. Okay, great. Thank you, Tammy. All right. Well, as Mayor Milch said, we're here tonight to talk about a legislative text amendment that's making updates to our Gladstone Municipal Code, specifically Title 17. That's our development code chapters, 3 chapters there that pertain to limited land uses, design review, partitions, and our hearings procedures, specifically our public notice procedures. So tonight, it's not all state required work that we're doing. We've been working on this for quite a while with the Planning Commission because it is part of our packet that the Planning Commission put forward into the council goal setting session for the biennium for 2025 and 26, that we would look at how we do design review and see if it's working for all the different types of projects that we receive, if we should be looking at smaller projects, having some sort of staff level and clearing up our standards so that we know they're clear and objective, making them as easy to apply as possible so that as an applicant comes in, they have a clear understanding of what gets an approval. And as a city decision maker, it's a clear way of making findings and ensuring that we're meeting city's codes. So that's where we started with this project, was making sure that we were meeting our council goals. And just while we're on this screen, even though it's written really small, I'll still point out that we have completed the top 2, which is the town center project and the floodplain regulations. And the Planning Commission voted at the last meeting that the next thing they'll take on is that accessory dwelling unit design standard. So we anticipate doing that through the winter and coming back. Food cart pods would follow that. And then with the new economic development team in place, perhaps there'll be some coordination efforts in 2026 that we can work on with them. So Planning Commission is right on track, making sure they're meeting all their goals for that biennium. In addition to that, there have been some changes at the state level. There have been some legislative amendments changing the Oregon revised statutes regarding what they call limited land use decisions. And limited land use decisions include partitions, subdivisions, design reviews. Now they include planned unit developments, variances for residential, and zone changes for residential to upzone a higher density. The way that that's rolling out right now is that we do need to update our code for how we provide public notice. But the language in the ORS was not completely explicit at how we change our process for most of those. We do think the legislature in the next session will be fixing that and making at least housing related developments change how we're processing them as well. So I'm happy to talk more in detail about that, but for now we're not doing that tonight. So I just want to make sure you're, that's coming eventually. But tonight we're just talking about partitions, how we do notice for the city, and just making sure that we have clear and objective design review standards. So the Planning Commission did meet, I believe we had 4 work sessions on this. So they worked hard on really digging into the language that pertains to a design review. We have language that pertains to the building design, the site design, the landscaping, the parking a little bit. We didn't get too deeply in the weeds on the parking because our standards are very numerical and clear and objective in the parking standards. But we did decide that as we went through, we made everything numerical if we could. We decided that there were some exemptions to design review. So if you're adding a very small addition to your site, and in this case, what comes to mind is the cover over the public works picnic area outside. If you're under 250 square feet and you're on an already developed site and you're not visible to other properties and right of way, you can now just go straight to building permit with the proposed code language, as well as previously planned park improvements. So this would be things like the nature trail at the Gladstone Nature Park, things that are already part of an approved plan. It's kind of just an added level to have it go to the Planning Commission when it's already been vetted by a city body and adopted by the city. So we want to exempt those things from going through that design review process. And then when looking at how we review projects, there are really important design criteria that we wanted to make sure we were capturing on larger projects, but that may be cost prohibitive or something that's not as important on a smaller project. So Planning Commission did a lot of research as to how we define a smaller project. And we came to the conclusion that if it's on half an acre or less, And that's for any type of project. Or if it's residential and it has 12 or fewer dwelling units, that's considered a smaller project. So different standards for those two types of things in just a few areas. In addition, we have had a couple of applications where there's been like a 2-story building in a commercial zoning adjacent to a residential property. And if there's a 1-story residential development on the adjacent property, we talked about applying, extra setbacks to that 2-story. So graduating those setbacks so that if you want to build 1 story next to that property, that's not as impactful as 2 stories. And you can do either pull the whole building back or build 1 story next to the property line until you get to the setback and then go to that 2-story level. Any questions about that before I move on?
Heather, the 2 examples you gave for the second item on this list were both for publicly owned thing, a park and a public works building.
Yes.
But these same standards would apply to a privately owned development as well. Is that correct?
That's definitely true of the smaller site additions up to 250 square feet. The park improvement one is going to be city parks, just because we don't have any other parks. We don't have private HOA parks in the city of Gladstone. That is in other cities, but I don't believe that would be here, and how they would get an approved site plan. So yes, for the smaller site additions, yes, applies to everybody.
So this would be an appropriate time for a question, or are we?
Well, just to clarify what's being reported, not to discuss or debate the.
Right, thank you.
Okay. So in addition, also regarding design review standards, currently the code says if you want to do any kind of metal on an exterior part of your building, you have to get the Planning Commission's explicit approval. So we talked about what type of metal are we seeing on buildings that we like, and we did some research on that and found that the aluminum composite material, ACM, is the kind of architectural metal siding, and that up to 20% of it on visible portions of buildings would be an acceptable amount. That's the amount we're seeing on other buildings in the area. The Arlington Tap Room, for example, has some metal on it. A lot of our auto dealerships do, especially the ones that are upgrading their facades right now. We looked at lighting standards and decided to make those numerical and base those on adopted industry standards. City of Hillsborough is particularly the city that we looked at their code because their standards were very clear and objective and adopted those into the language. In looking at our trees, we want to require native drought tolerant plant species and irrigation on sites, just looking toward being more sustainable, more resilient in our landscaping on sites. And then currently with design review, there is a minor exception process, which is in addition to the already adopted adjustment and variance procedures. It sort of layers on top, and it can be a little bit confusing because an applicant can apply for a design review and say they need a minor exception, but it's really an adjustment or a variance that they're getting. And so do we process it with the adjustment criteria or the variance criteria? So Planning Commission was comfortable with removing the minor exception language and just having the adjustment or variance be applied as necessary with a design review. Any specific questions about those changes?
I'm having a hard time figuring the line.
Where it is. Well, maybe I'll just finish and then we can go through all of them. Okay, we can always come back to the slides. And then finally with design review, we have a few pieces of conditions that we like to require, but we don't have that link to something in our development code to require this when a project comes through. So in consultation with our Public Works Department, we're putting forward the request to add the conditions that you provide a construction management plan. This comes up in most design review hearings where neighbors maybe just want to know, when will trucks be on site? When will the road be closed? What kind of fencing are you putting around this site to keep kids and pets out, and what's the erosion control plan? So now we'll require a construction management plan as we're looking at the building permits so that we have that on file, and we'll require them to post it on site so anybody walking by can see what's happening on the property as construction's happening. The other piece is the public utility easement along a public street frontage. This is really industry standard, so we have been able to just condition this on most projects, especially when there's not that line with a 0 setback like in the C2 zone. But to really clarify and connect it to a code criteria, we'd like to add it into the code here. That is it for design review. I will note that the Gladstone Town Center applies the downtown core overlay standards to all properties zoned C2 in the city. So there are more stringent building and site design standards with the windows, the setbacks, the parking, the landscaping, and those apply everywhere in the Gladstone Town Center. So just as a reminder, that's our T-shaped boundary here in the purple. So just for reference, this is not super easy to tell what's going on here, but I tried to just identify which properties are outside of the town center, but are still commercial or higher density residential, where if you're developing those standards, you'll need to meet these new design review criteria. So it's basically along McLaughlin. It's right here where we are in this light industrial zoning for the city buildings. It's that Seventh-day Adventist site that Jackie mentioned earlier. And along I-205 that's not in the town center boundary. And then that tiny pink square at the top that's office commercial, our only property in the city. But we do have a forthcoming application on that site. So it will probably precede these standards taking effect. So that is what we're talking about when we're talking about applying these new standards, because the downtown core overlay standards are more stringent. So anything in the C2 or in Portland Avenue is already being covered. That is it for design review. For limited land uses, we did look particularly just at partitions. Right now we have two types of partitions. One is a staff level partition, and that's if it doesn't have a flag lot, it takes access from a local street and it conforms to all the dimensional standards. The second is if it needs a variance or an adjustment to meet those dimensional standards, if it does create a flag lot or if it doesn't take access from a local street. Planning Commission was comfortable with having staff review both of those. There's clear standards for all of those pieces. We have very clear flag lot standards, street access, and adjustment and variance. So we are proposing to move partitions all into staff level review and clarify and just have one type of partition review for the city. Also on the limited land use, the recommendations are all following the state law, including public notice procedures. I just want to make clear that Planning Commission continues as the decision-making authority for subdivision, design review, variance, conditional use, interpretations of the zoning code or comp plan, appeals of staff level decisions, greenway conditional use, floodplain variances, and appeals. What we think is coming is that subdivision and design review is going to likely move over into a staff level review in the next year or so. And it might be just residential subdivisions and residential design review, or it might be all. So that is potentially coming. The next one we know is coming and has already been written into the ORS is that by July 1st of 2026, we do have to have staff level residential variance review. So if it's a commercial, industrial, or institutional variance, it can still go to the Planning Commission. And then finally, Planning Commission right now makes a recommendation to you, the City Council, on zone changes, and that will continue to occur unless the zone change is residential upzoning. So R7.2 to R5 or R5 to our high density residential, those will turn into staff level decisions. And again, that's July 1st, 2026. So we're not moving on that until we have to. We will be bringing that forward next spring to go through hearings. Questions about that? I know that's a little confusing.
Well, now and then the city council has to put on sort of the hat that the planning commission wears all the time. And you used a lot of terminology here that some of us may not be familiar with. So I really want to give people opportunity. If you have any questions, anything that's unclear to you, because if it's unclear to us, it's probably unclear to the public too. And it would be helpful to bring more clarification. So any questions about anything that's been said here, just to kind of have a better understanding of what it means. Go ahead, Councilor Lobant.
Sure, if I may, and thank you, Heather.
Sure.
I guess just generally speaking, I know that the Planning Commission in some ways kind of acts as a filter between, for the city to kind of have its character and maybe be a safeguard to some things in the state that might not fit here in the city. What types of I don't know if the right word is control, but what is the planning commission losing in this? What type of, not sure if authority is the right word, but yeah, I see this here, but if you could go in a little more as to kind of what they're losing.
That's a good question. So part of this whole project was for Planning Commission to take a deep look at what the standards are and what they feel are most important to the city of Gladstone. So making sure we're clarifying exactly what those standards are. We're having issues with lighting standards between commercial users and residents. Like, how do we clarify that and make that so much better to implement and better to approve a good project? And so they spent 4 months going through and making sure, reading with a fine-tooth comb all of the design review criteria to make sure that if and when it comes over into the staff level review, the staff, me at this point, I would be using their lens to review any application that comes in. So the other thing the Planning Commission has made clear is that they'd like to do regular check-ins. They will continue to get the monthly planning report where it will list any applications that have come in, anything that we've reviewed and approved. And then we as staff would be reporting back to the Planning Commission, here's what we approved, here's what conditions we applied. And then every 6 months or a year, depending on how many of these we get, sometimes we get a design review every month. Sometimes we go 6 months without getting one. So just depending on how busy we are, we would circle back with the Planning Commission and have a check-in. What's working? What do we need to add? What are we missing? So Planning Commission intends to be very involved throughout, all of these reviews, and I guess keep its finger on the pulse. Even if the state says it has to be a staff level review, it's still a close working relationship that we'll be moving forward with.
And were those types of changes that they might come up with come to us?
Yes. Yep.
So this is going to be a kind of.
It'll be cyclical. Yeah. It'll come, staff will feed into Planning Commission. Planning Commission will make recommendations. It'll come to City Council, because anytime we change the Chapter 17 of the municipal code, it is considered that comprehensive plan amendment that we then have to report to the state and go through these public hearings for.
In a way, it's almost like a living document, or it's got some, if that's a
yes, yeah. There's notice requirements to the state for 35 days prior to our first hearing, which can be a little bit of a time constraint on like Planning Commission only meeting once a month. So that's been coming around in my mind. As the state makes changes to how we process things, are there then opportunities to change the way we feedback to the state? Should we be looking at those timelines as well, to make sure that the city is able to effectively and efficiently change their language that they need to respond to new things that are occurring in the community? And I do think that is happening now. Planning Commission's, very involved and seeing a lot of design review and having an opportunity to have a lot of those conversations. So I think the opportunities are there, though, for the feedback loop.
I sure hope.
Yes.
And may I ask, did this pass unanimously through planning?
This did get recommended unanimously from your Planning Commission. Yes.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Blau.
Sorry.
After a lot of conversation.
I watched some of those, and yes.
Yeah.
Does this reduce the costs for applicants and the speed at which approval can be granted?
That is the idea. Yes. That particularly housing, that you can get a permit to build residential housing quicker and for less administrative cost, and move it's really pushing toward how do we get to the building permit quicker? That is the point. Yes.
All right, so I think we have a better understanding of the rationale for this. We've reached the point then when we, is there?
Excuse me, Mayor Mush. I do have just a couple more slides.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's
Should
all
have
right.
gotten us to the end. Public notice. So public notice is one where there are some changes happening. Some are city sponsored, though. Right now we do have a 20-day notice for projects that come to Planning Commission. the limited land use standards limit us to 14 days, which actually is a very much an industry standard, 2 weeks, mail the notice, people have an opportunity to respond. We also currently require newspaper notice to be published, but the problem is in Gladstone, our local newspaper is the Lake Oswego Review, and so not a lot of people get that in published form. So we don't feel like that's a useful use of public resources because it costs money. It costs actually several $100s every time we put one of those notifications together. So we would rather use, last month we put in the newsletter what was coming for this month to Planning Commission. We're using the city's website and social media and trying to use different opportunities to provide notice because newspaper notice is not mandated by the state that we do that. And it's just not something that's practical in Gladstone anymore. The other thing that changes is the mailed notice boundary. Right now, when we mail notice, we draw a circle for most land uses of 250 feet. That does change to 100 feet with the limited land use. So fewer neighbors get direct mailed notice. So that's where we decided we wanted to make sure that when we are doing public noticing campaigns like the newsletter and putting out on social media that we're making sure we're meeting those deadlines so that more people are having an opportunity to see that that's happening. 100 feet is already being used for lot line adjustments, partitions, those types of uses that are already a staff level review. 100 feet is already our standard. So it's not a new standard to the city. It's just changing over some more review types to that. Yes.
Sure.
Did you say that 100 feet was planning commission's decision? The planning commission's decision was 100 feet or the state's?
That one is a state mandate for limited land uses. So everything listed on that mailed notice boundary is a limited land use. So right now, the big state required change that we are implementing is this piece, how we notice it. What's coming is how we review it. There will be a change to that too. But right now we're just looking at how we notice it.
So if you have 100 feet, if your neighbor is more than 100 feet away, you don't have to tell them anything?
You don't have to by state law. And that is true already for several land uses in the city of Gladstone.
I've seen some of it and that's pretty sad. I'm sorry to say. That's too bad.
But to clarify, you're saying that the use of the city newsletter and social media will expand that so that pretty much everybody becomes, don't we even have a place on our website where it's current projects going on and there's little sites, we could map that out as some cities do. So if you want to know what's being built on that street I drive by every way that's on the other side of town, but I, wonder what it is.
We do have that. We've been using it for public projects to this point, but we certainly could use that for private projects too. If we were updating the address and like what's been submitted on that application, that's definitely an option. And I've been working with city staff to make sure that if I know something's coming, I get it in the newsletter. The newsletter deadlines are generally the 18th of the month ahead. So I don't always have in what I'm going to be doing with Planning Commission the next month. But if applicants have been reaching out to me and saying they're intending to submit, I believe I had one of those for this month where I said, we're probably going to be hearing this because I didn't have a complete application, but just to make sure people know that it could be happening. So yes, and Planning Commission said the newsletter is a way that a lot of community members get news about the city. Okay. So that is all the slides I have for you this evening. That's all the information. So we do recommend that you approve text 25-03, which would update the Gladstone Municipal Code, and it would adopt Ordinance 1543. And then I'm happy to answer any questions. Then we can take public testimony.
All right. Any more questions? Okay, and this is, okay. All right, go ahead.
All right, so I'm going to go to page 10.4. And when you talked about that you had looked extensively on the lighting that comes from a two-story building near a residential one-story, the first thing that comes to my mind, of course, is that Webster Ridge debacle. And my question, I guess, is what was the Webster Ridge I didn't write the word down. What was that, the lighting requirement at that point, and have we corrected that?
The lighting at that point would be the portion of lighting. Let me just get through to the code that we are removing. It's not on 10.4. I just have to find it. I believe currently it's just
Maybe 10.6.
I believe so. Yes.
Where it talks about the candles?
Yes. So we said during that review that all on-site lighting shall be designed, located, shielded, or deflected so as not to shine off-site or impair the vision of a driver of any vehicle. But it was very subjective, right? So if you submit a photometric plan and look at it and say, we're not going to do that, it's hard to tell that without having like numerical edge of property, photometric, science-backed numbers there. So that's where we utilized City of Hillsborough, which is the same as like City of Salem, and other cities have these same foot candle requirements, that if you're at a maximum illumination of 1 foot candle at your property line, that's not going to allow much light trespass onto a neighboring property.
Okay.
So that's where the recommendation is, to make numbers associated with those light standards.
And what keeps a property owner from changing those out 5 years down the road and now all
Nothing.
of a sudden?
What has happened is we've actually had a code compliance issue where on McLaughlin, we had an auto dealership change out for really bright LED lights that shone right into residents' windows. And so those residents contacted our code community code enforcement officer, and we worked together to bring that place into conformance with the standards. That one had an adopted photometric plan that showed those numbers, 1 foot candle at the edge of the property, or I think it was even 0.5. And so we were able to say, this is what you were approved for. You have to reduce it down to this level. And they were able to do that. But nothing in a development code can keep someone from making a change later, but we do have code enforcement that requires them to come back into compliance.
Okay. On the bottom, thank you for that clarification. On the bottom of 10.6, it says all equipment and facilities, all utility lines shall be placed underground. Is that always available?
Yes. So any new utilities have to be placed underground. We don't approve new overhead power lines, for example.
Okay, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm still a little, I just, when I talked to you earlier, I asked you about the restaurant.
Yes.
It's just not spelled out. And I guess I understand what you're saying about non-residential, but an office is non-residential and retail is. So given the fact that we're trying to bring restaurants into Gladstone, and we have standards for that, I was surprised that it's not spelled out.
Yeah, so you're referring to on 10.7, the trash disposal and recycling collection standards. And so for non-residential, we specifically list office, retail, wholesale warehouse, manufacturing, education, institutional, and then we list other. So a restaurant would fall into that other category, and you would need 4 square feet per 1,000 square feet of restaurant.
I'll just say, just stating that I thought it was awfully odd that we're not calling out a restaurant, given the fact that when you talk about trash, yeah, they got a lot of trash. And I think that could be a little bit clearer, especially when you're putting a restaurant next to somebody's home. I just think that we need to be real cognizant about summer odors. Rodents, things like that.
I because we're not changing that part of the code, I'm not prepared to give a recommendation on that, but I'll take note of that and bring that back to Planning Commission as a future consideration item.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. And then 10.12.
Okay.
It says the use on A at the bottom, it would be 8A. The use of sod is required along McLaughlin Boulevard. I have to ask why.
That is an ODOT standard. So ODOT does not want any trees along McLaughlin. The leaves are a lot to maintain on the public highway. So that is that's a ODOT standard that we've always implemented on every project. We've just always used that exception language. And so we thought, why not just make it the standard, because it is
Okay.
the ODOT standard.
Well, shame on ODOT. Because Warren Buffett says someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago.
Yes, and it doesn't preclude businesses from planting the tree on their private property on the, other side of the right of way. It's just McLaughlin right of way cannot have street trees.
Okay. Let's see. And I was looking on page 1021, and why would it say checked by the city administrator, or I'm assuming that would be your office. I'm not questioning our city administrator. I'm just thinking, why would we ask a city administrator to go over design use issues?
That does encompass my position. City administrator or designee I would be the city administrator's designee for review.
And I get that. I guess I'm just not understanding why you wouldn't be first.
Well, maybe because I'm not a staff member.
Okay.
And so you could say Gladstone Planning Department, because I do represent the Gladstone Planning Department.
Okay. And I
but
understand
think that
that's
covers it.
another one of those. It's not yellow, so we're not looking at it.
Well,
yet.
and I think Jackie wears so many hats that, planner would look good on her.
I
agree.
Okay. And then I only had one other item. Sorry, on 1032, you took out F. So I'm assuming that G, H, I, and J are going to be moved.
Yes.
Okay.
And I tried to note where we needed to update the lettering on those. I think I might have lost track at that point.
No worries.
You are right. The other nice thing is, because the city does use a service for doing the code updates online, they catch all of that.
Okay.
So I try to be careful with it, but it does get caught.
Thank you for the conversation.
Yes.
That's all I have.
For the public who's either present tonight or watching online, and you don't have the document in front of you that we got in our packet, usually when we make these changes, we show the existing code, we show lineouts on things that are going to be removed from it, and we have highlights of new language that's coming in. So the references that Councilor Garlington and others of us will make are to a document that looks like that. You can look at it up on the packet if you want to review it yourself. All right. Other questions or comments? Councilor Labonte.
Sure. Just a couple of questions. One of which, I guess I'll get to the fun one. A couple questions just at what this looks like, but on 10.5, that 4? Buffering, there's a between the way that it's worded now, special consideration will be given to the buffering, screening, and city commercial and industrial uses to ensure that noise and odors are not detected with normal sensory perception. And now we're putting, it looks like just a 6-foot limit to that. Were there times in this where it was appropriate to go higher than 6 feet? And are we restricting our ability to do what we want to do here?
This does say a minimum 6 foot high. So you could go higher. But at a minimum, you have to.
And is that something that we would require if we were to look at it and say, oh, you need more? How does that work out?
6 feet is 6 feet is our maximum fence height in Gladstone without getting a variance or an adjustment to the fence height standard. So going above a 6 foot fence height would mean changing your fence standards. And there are some ramifications with building code and wind load and things once you go above a 6 foot fence. So that's where, because it's buffering and screening, 6 foot fence is going to buffer and screen headlights, any kind of use of a yard that's happening, because this is between industrial and those other users. So you also want to be mindful that if you're putting a hedge or a fence between residential and industrial, a really tall hedge or fence might be really imposing versus a 6 foot fence that sort of transitions to residential if that industrial use is light industrial or office industrial or something. So I think a 6 foot minimum allows the possibility of going higher where necessary, but it doesn't require you to go higher than that.
Okay.
That's
so
where that
that have
purpose
to
is.
be on the builder's end to be like, hey, it seems like we would want to go higher to be good neighbors.
Well, or if it's in a situation where it's getting like a conditional use permit, that would definitely be something that could be considered. If it's a straight allowed use on that property, then the thinking is that's already been contemplated that use can occur on that site. And what we're doing now is just trying to ameliorate the face on first floor window type headlights, any kind of I don't think any height of fence is really going to take care of noise as much as you might need, but just trying to put some sort of numerical standard there so it's really clear what the minimum is.
And I appreciate it. And I see that. It's just one example where it's like I wasn't sure if it could go either way.
Should it go higher? It certainly could, and maybe that's something we circle back on. But like I said, too, going over 6 foot height does exceed the city's fence standards. So.
If I'm concerned about cost for building, I guess here, and the irrigation part of it, the change there on 1012, where we're changing to high efficiency irrigation is required for all required landscaping. What was strike from the record? Provision shall be made for watering planting areas where such care is required. So that we're pretty much folks need to have. What would that irrigation system look like? What are we talking about when we're talking about a high efficiency irrigation system?
So I think it's high efficiency irrigation would be like something that's automatic, something that has controls on it that you can turn on and off with weather dependent. So not something that's necessarily like hand controlled. We don't want people having to water in that way, or hand watering. We definitely don't want to rely on that, I think. But high efficiency irrigation is not something that we defined in there. So we could certainly add a definition for that. I think before it said where such care is required, and the planning commission felt like it's always required in the summer months now. You have to irrigate or you will lose your landscaping. So I think that was the biggest change there. But I hear what you're saying about high efficiency irrigation and what that can mean. My mind keeps thinking, can you buy a not high efficiency landscaping system going forward?
What I can say is I often see wildly inefficient ones when they're running into the street or going at weird times. So I don't, and that's an extra expense to the builder there. But that's something maybe that I'm thinking of there. And I have a question regarding right under that about trees. Now, trees that are in that zone now for existing residents, how does that, is there a grandfathering there? What does that look like?
For the street trees section. So that's just removing that street trees may be required, because up above we say street trees shall be chosen. So we're requiring street trees now of anything that comes in for review from this point forward.
And I guess so from this point forward, we're looking at any approved trees through the Clackamas County.
Oh, yes.
And existing trees that are in that zone of property.
As a reminder, all of these standards apply to a new application.
Thank you. Yep.
Nothing is retroactive. So same with the irrigation. We're not looking at anybody's existing irrigation. It'd be you're coming in for a development permit for something new or in addition to your site.
Well, yeah, and that's going to get wildly interesting for the planning commission when we look at ADUs. Would that apply to with ADUs?
No, ADUs do not go to planning commission. Okay. They go straight to building permit.
Sure. So they, if you're putting an ADU up, it wouldn't.
Nope, you wouldn't trigger any of these.
Okay. And I have nothing to.
I do have a follow-on to that question, though, that I'd like to ask Heather. Can we remove Clackamas County and put City of Gladstone approved street trees, because we now do have our own that was adopted by the tree board and the council last year?
Yes.
Okay.
We could definitely make that change. I believe we've been working on this for long enough that we proposed this language before we had that in our city records. So that's a great change. So instead of saying Clackamas County approved street tree list, we'd say City of Gladstone approved street tree list.
Oh, geez, I'm sorry. 1039, just so I can have an understanding of this for myself. Goal number 7, areas subject to natural disasters and hazards. What areas in our town qualify or classify as that? Because I know there's different ways of looking at that. I'm wondering where.
Oh, 1039. So 1039 requires us to look, that's up my staff report. We're required to look at the statewide planning goals. That's more applicable in other cities. 39, I'm just looking, yeah, to protect people and property from natural hazards. So in Gladstone, that's more related to the floodplain than it is to like landslide or things like that, that we deal with a lot in other areas.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, I'm done.
All right, Councilor Blau, you had your light? Okay, you're good. Any questions, Councilor Huckabee? Councilor Corbett? Okay, all right. We've had our questions answered. That helps us. We're at this place where we would introduce any correspondence that had come to us on this matter. I don't believe we have any. We have an opportunity to do public testimony. Did anyone request to speak on this item tonight?
Did not receive any requests to speak.
All right, and no one has turned anything in, or nobody has made up their mind to testify in the last few minutes? Okay, so I'm going to declare then that we do not have any public testimony and that the public testimony portion is then closed. Any additional comments from you to address questions that came up?
Yes, so I looked up high efficiency irrigation system so we could clarify in our code language, and we could add language that says high efficiency irrigation system, including drip irrigation, which delivers water directly to plant roots, and or advanced sprinkler systems with high efficiency nozzles or smart controllers that adjust to weather and soil conditions. That is a high efficiency irrigation system.
Very good.
I have a question about that.
Go ahead,
Sorry.
Councilor Garland.
When you talk about drip irrigation,
Yes.
though, it doesn't sound like that includes automation.
Nope, it doesn't. That just puts the water directly on the roots. So it doesn't have to be automated to do that in this
Yeah,
definition.
I don't love that.
You just like it to be automated, smart controllers, and high efficiency nozzles.
Yeah, I think that if you're looking at a large building and we have to rely on somebody to walk outside, turn on the water and turn it off every day, I'm just not, I think that could become a fire hazard because it got let go. And I don't love that.
May I ask, is my understanding of this that some with the landscaping where there's, I don't have it right in front of me, but we're looking more towards like drought resistant
Yes.
vegetation?
Yes.
Okay. I just, something about the irrigation I feel is an extra expense to builders. I don't love it. I understand it, but I don't love it.
It has never come up as a issue on a project that we've reviewed here that's something that is a problem because I think it is expected.
Okay.
That if you're putting in landscaping because you're required to landscape 15% of your site, that you need to irrigate that. I do understand there are like zero-scape situations and things that we could eventually start seeing, but we haven't seen any of that yet.
I think I'd like to leave the language alone as it sits here.
All right, we'll have an opportunity when we get, when we make a motion to, for you to propose an amendment, if you'd like, at that point.
No amendment. So if somebody wanted to make that.
Oh, I'm talking about amending from the way it's been presented here.
Correct,
If
and I'd
there's,
like
if
to
you want to
leave it
change
alone.
that, we can do
Okay.
that at that time.
Okay.
One more thing about this, we describe it as changing the, part of the focus of this was who makes some of these land use decisions, whether they continue to go to planning commission or not. But you've covered a lot of language in here. Am I correct that some of the things that we're talking about changing and doing will still be things that the planning commission looks at it? These are not all the things that we're changing here are not all going to be just staff decisions. Am I correct?
Right now, it all goes still to the planning commission.
Okay.
So design review would be subject to all of these criteria and planning commission would be doing the review of that.
Okay.
We'd still be writing the staff report, making the recommendation, but planning commission would be making the decision. But we do anticipate that residential developments might come into the staff level review. We think that probably commercial and industrial and institutional will stay at planning commission, but we don't know that for sure.
So is really getting to clear and objective standards is
Yes.
what enables you to make that change in the future, because then you can look at it and say, oh, this fence is below 6 feet, or this irrigation is just a hose that somebody else, you understand at that point whether they comply or don't comply.
Yes. And so that's where, defining a high efficiency system or not even requiring high efficiency, but just requiring irrigation is right now it says provision shall be made for watering planting areas where such care is required. That's too subjective for planning commission or for staff to say, oh, well, I think care is required here, but not here, So I'd like to see it requiring irrigation for required landscaping. So if you're required to put in landscaping, you're required to put irrigation with it. Whether it's high efficiency or not, I'm fine going either way, but I think the current language is a little too subjective about where you have, if you even have to put irrigation in.
All right. I think we've had clarification on the staff report. We did not have any public testimony, so officially the public hearing on file number TXT-25-03 is now closed to additional testimony. Now it is the time for us as a council to deliberate to a decision, and we will be asking for a motion on as this has been presented to us, but I do have your indication that you'd like to see a change in at least part of what's been presented to us.
The only change we need to make is on item 5 on page 1012, which is the Gladstone list of trees. I would like to see the irrigation number 3 sit as it reads right now.
Oh, so you want the sentence with the high efficiency, or you would prefer to leave the part that's been deleted?
No, just right there is all good.
Then, you like the new version? Okay.
I'm all good with that.
All right. So, anybody else want to, do you have comments, pro or con, about this proposal? Would someone like to make a motion to approve this as presented with the one change on page 1012?
I will move to approve city file TXT 2503 with the change on standards 17.46.020 item 5 for the Gladstone list, updating chapters 17.44, 17.46, 17.80, and 17.94 of the Gladstone Municipal Code and adopting ordinance 1543.
All right, it's been moved by Councilor Garlington. Is there a second?
I second.
Councilor Corbett has seconded the motion, which is everything that's been presented to us with just changing the word Clackamas County to the word City of Gladstone, because we have our own tree standards now. Any further discussion? All right, Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Labonte,
Yes.
Counselor Corbett,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington.
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Counselor Mitchell, Counselor Blau,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes. So the motion is approved unanimously. I want to extend thanks. I see our Planning Commission Chair, Natalie Smith, is here tonight for the 4 months of at least of work that you put in on this. And Heather Austin of 3J Consulting, who contracts with us for planning services. I appreciate your clear explanations of this. Chad Jacobs, you are on the screen. And I think, Tammy, you were watching to see if Chad had his hand up at any point. I guess you're okay with what we've done, right? Okay, very good. We got a thumbs up from Chad on that. Okay, we move to the next item on our agenda. is consider appointments to the Gladstone Library Blue Ribbon Committee to guide the future reuse of the former library building. And we'll turn to Administrator Betts for that.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. So as you recall, at your September meeting, you gave direction to staff to solicit interest in an ad hoc committee, which will be called the Gladstone Library Blue Ribbon Committee. The city did advertise for volunteers on social media, the city's website. We did direct messaging and then through my weekly report. Want to talk a little bit about what the purpose is, and I want to reassure the city council that ultimate deciding authority remains with the governing body, which is the city council. But because we promised the residents of the community that we would do a very comprehensive community engagement process with the former library site, we want to put this ad hoc group together to guide the reuse and visioning of the old library building. They're going to review site conditions, the community feedback, appraisal. They can recommend goals and scoring criteria for a competitive redevelopment request for proposal, and provide advice on transaction scenarios. I do want to say that if these people are appointed, they will become representatives of the city of Gladstone, and they will be staffed by Mr. Lagarza, who's joining us online, and myself. So we will make sure that they're prepared with good talking points as they are engaging with others in the community. We're proposing that the ad hoc committee consist of 9 members. That would be Councilor Labonte as the city council representative. And in my conversations with Councilor Blaug, she also expressed an interest to be the alternate if Andrew is not able to attend the meeting. So I think that that would be appropriate for us to add that. Natalie Smith, who's here tonight as the Planning Commission representative, and then the alternates would be Andrea Langston and Stephanie Carlson. We have Nancy Eichstad, who is here tonight, who is the alternate on the Clackamas County Library Board as a Gladstone representative. We also wanted some representation from residents in the community. And so we're recommending Kathy Wiseman, Kadoa Swadikowski, Kyle Donovan, and their applications are also in your packet. We have Nicole Quackenbush, who's here tonight. She would be our school district board member representative. Ariella Sophie Sternberg is also here, and she is with the Clackamas County Arts Alliance, and she would be our arts cultural organization representative. And then we also have Steve Perkins, who's with Clackamas County Economic Development. So as you can see, we have a very diverse group of applicants here. We propose meeting 3 times between probably the last week of October and in January. We will have this group come to a conclusion in February, and we've tentatively scheduled a work session with the council in February at the 2nd meeting. So I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Lagarza to see if there's anything else he would like to add.
No, hello, Mayor and Council. Happy to be here this evening. Quite excited. We had a lot of applicants apply, and I think we have a good representation across the board here. Excited to move forward with this, and excited for us to have our first meeting with the Blue Ribbon Committee here at the end of October to start this process with the RFP process with them. So happy to answer any questions too.
All right. Do council members have any questions for Mr. Lagarza? Go ahead, Councilor Labonte.
Hi, John. I'm not sure if this is so much for you, but I just want to make sure that I'm not missing something in any of our bylaws or anything regarding having folks on the committee from out of city. That's totally fine. I've noticed a couple addresses, which I'm not necessarily opposed to. I just want to make sure that it's commented on that some of the folks applying for this ad hoc position don't reside in.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that to our attention. So in the city council rules, specifically section R, that authorizes the formation of an ad hoc committee. So they don't have to be a Gladstone residents, but the ones that are being proposed here have relevant professional experience to add value to what this ad hoc committee is trying to accomplish.
Great, thank you.
I would just,
Councilor Garland?
I'd just like to share, I think this is an impressive group of people. Their applications are just really give a well-rounded addition to what we're trying to accomplish, and I'm really excited. Again, I just ask that everybody be open and honest.
And I'll make a similar comment to one I made last month. If there had been a real strong consensus when we did our open house and got input from the public of going in a very specific direction, this task might be very easy, but it's still very up in the air about what people would like to see, what would be the best use of that site, and whether the site itself can even be reused in its current situation or needs to be something new. So there are a lot of decisions to be made regarding development related issues, budget related issues. If the desire is to have something that's basically a city operated program of some kind that serves the citizens, the city would have to pay for that. If the desire is to have a privately operated agency that somehow serves the community in a different way, then we want requests for proposals to hear what people would like to do and how they could do it. So it is something that continues to need this kind of engagement and involvement. And so I'm glad that we're moving in this direction.
If I may ask for John, since you waited and you've been here, I know you work on many different projects. You're in different cities. What excites you or is a little different about this project than maybe other ones that you're working on?
Well, thank you for the question. One, I think we really have a location within the downtown corridor here on Portland Avenue. That's a great opportunity for a catalytic project here for Portland Avenue. And I'm excited to be working on this because I think this can really be a great way to tie in the community with the need there to be that starting project for Main Street there. So that's what's exciting. I think we're going to have a lot of interest, and I'm excited because we have a really good, cast of, people that will be on our Blue Ribbon Committee to really help kind of, define that criteria and really understand what we're looking for to draw into Gladstone there. So I'm just excited. I think this is a really good opportunity for the Main Street to be able to start that area there.
Thank you.
Councilor Blau?
Is there any plans for additional public outreach or town halls for this?
At this time, what we will start now is we will start having the Blue Ribbon Committee will define the criteria and we'll develop the RFP. And then once we push out the RFP for the target, we're already thinking about around December, and then have an open house for the developers to come out there in January. Again, we have a tentatively thinking for a February work session, so then we could come in and present a proposal. So I think the open house would be, after we kind of got to get through the holidays, but we think probably a good 6 weeks to be able to have that RFP out on the street would be a good time, and have an open house from there, somewhere in that timeline, Councilor.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Would someone like to make a motion from the recommendation on the bottom of page 11-2?
Mayor, you did have one individual that wanted to speak.
Sorry, I forgot about that. Yes, we do have a request. Nancy Eichstead, was it you that wanted to speak on this particular issue? Or I thought that was on the next item.
I'm sorry. You are
Okay.
correct.
All right, I remember the name, forgot the item. Okay, sorry about that.
Sorry.
Nancy's one of those who is on the list of people to be on this. Okay, would someone like to make the motion?
I move that the city council approve the proposed membership outlined above to the Gladstone Library Blue Ribbon Committee.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilor Garlington and seconded by Councilor Huckabee. Further discussion? Thank you to all who applied, and I agree this is going to be an exciting process, and I'm grateful that we have this interest from the community and beyond.
Yes.
So let's call the roll.
Counselor Blaug,
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Counselor Labonte.
Yes.
Counselor Corbett,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes. So the Blue Ribbon Committee is appointed, and we thank the volunteers and our contracted staff. Thank you, John, for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Look forward to working with you, and this is exciting. Thank you so much.
Okay, now we move to item 12, which is regarding the Gladstone Nature Park Bird Pavilion, and we'll have a report from staff.
Thank you, Mayor. So tonight you have one staff report for 2 items that need to be approved. And just to give a little bit of background, the Metro Council approved its 3rd round of funding through the Nature and Neighborhoods Capital Grants Program. And the Friends of the Gladstone Nature Park was awarded $132,000 for the development of an inclusive bird pavilion at the Gladstone Nature Park. There is a matching requirement of $68,000, and in-kind volunteer help can go towards that. The pavilion has not been designed yet, but we know it will be situated adjacent to the newly constructed accessible paved loop trail, which kicked off today up on site there. And it will incorporate features specifically designed to accommodate individuals who are blind or visually impaired, ensuring full accessibility. I'd like to thank our city attorney. His office reviewed the intergovernmental agreements that we're asking you to approve tonight. So the first one is that even though the city is not receiving the funds itself, it is on city property. So we need to enter into an agreement with Metro and the city of Gladstone that we will be the government sponsor for the Bird Pavilion project awarded to the Friends of the Gladstone Nature Park. The second item is that we also need to have a license agreement with the Friends of the Gladstone Nature Park that they can use the Gladstone Nature Park to complete the Bird Pavilion project. And again, just to be clear, they are project managing this. They will hire an architect for the design work, and they will have the funds and financial reporting responsibility to Metro. We do have Nancy Eichstead here tonight that would like to provide some comments. I just lastly wanted to share that in your packet attached with the first intergovernmental agreement is the application that was prepared by FOGNAP, and it will be included as an exhibit to the agreement between Metro and the city of Gladstone. So with that, I will hand it over to Mrs. Eichstead.
Thank you, Jackie. You do such a nice job encapsulating all of that. Dear Council, Mayor, and City of Gladstone, Friends of Gladstone Nature Park are a privileged partner with the city in creating this one-of-a-kind inclusive bird pavilion in our nature park that will dovetail with the Universal Paved Loop Trail project now underway. I know you've been hearing about these 2 projects multiple times, but with tonight's approval, they can finally get started. Did you know that we have almost 100 bird species in the park? Did you know we already have wheelchair birders and blind birders using the park? The Inclusive Bird Pavilion is helping us to build more equitable and inclusive access to nature. The unique features of the Inclusive Bird Pavilion will provide experiences for folks with mobility issues. Have you ever tried pushing someone in a wheelchair across grass? I have. It's not fun. This week I met Franklin Ochita, your friend, Mayor Milch. He's a Gladstone resident who leads a wheelchair hiking group on Mondays on trails all over town. He's fearless. Now he can lead one here too. The Inclusive Bird Pavilion has already received support from many friends and partners in the community. These include endorsements by the Bird Alliance of Portland, the Clackamas River Basin Council, Albertina Kerr, Gladstone School District, Clackamas County Libraries, John Wetton Elementary, PSU College of Education, Somerset Lodge, Washington School for the Blind, and Webster Ridge Apartments. We love our city of 11,800, and while we are limited in growth by two amazing rivers, we can still make the most of what we already have here. Anything we can do together to help overcome barriers between people and the natural world is critically important. Thanks for supporting the Gladstone Inclusive Bird Pavilion. Thanks to you, our leadership, for supporting this deeply valuable asset to the community. And I can answer any questions if you have them.
First of all, I want to say thank you to you for preparing, for your role in preparing the application. The thing that impressed me the most was the list of all the partnerships involved, because it's not just one group doing this, it's engaging other people who have the same interest and recognize and mutually supporting one another. So that's what we like to be about in the city, and I want to thank you for that.
It's a lot of meetings.
I bet. Do individual counselors have questions? Councilor Levante?
If I may ask staff just for some clarification, so we're voting, we have two things we're voting on here. The first is to go into the intergovernment agreement with Fognap and Metro for this project in general. And is the second the actual building of allowing for the building of the pavilion?
The first one is between Metro and the city.
Mm-hmm.
And we're saying we're going to be the government sponsor. This is city property, and we're going to allow this nonprofit organization to build this on city property. That's the first agreement. The second agreement is between the city and Fognap, saying you were awarded these funds through Metro, and we're going to allow you to use this property for that specific project.
Mm-hmm.
And if Chad has any further clarity, please jump in.
Would it be normal for us to, and I mean, I support the project, the work you do is great. My only concern is not seeing really what we're going to be voting for in the end. I see the picture there in the map, like the dimensions of like, will this go through planning? What are steps once we let this out? Does and I anticipate Fognap will make a great bird pavilion, but I'm wondering, I'd like to see kind of what we're voting on. Is that something that we're doing now essentially, or is that
we're not voting on the actual structure that's going to be built.
Mm-hmm.
We're voting on the ability to use city property for that project.
And does that come to us at some point, or is that through planning the actual
if it triggers a design review, it would go to the Planning Commission.
Nancy, do you have further clarification on that? Is there anything else that you know?
We didn't want to propose something before it went to a design firm. So we deliberately avoided that. There will be some sort of public engagement with the design firm once they have an idea of what they're going to do. We have a group of stakeholders that represent people in wheelchairs, people who are vision impaired, people who are birders. We have a group of those folks who will work with the design firm to come up with, like, I don't know what their needs are, but they do, and they can work with the design firm more closely. And then at some point there will be a review process.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. You'll trust in that process, I hope.
Yeah, well, being a public park and our nature park, I've been kind of clear. I totally respect what happens up there, but I do like the nature aspect of it too. So building there, so there's folks have different views on what the nature park should be. So when I see construction things happening up there, I'll refer back to the middle schoolers I talk to when they'll respond, isn't this supposed to be a nature park? So I'm always a little concerned about that. And just not being able to see what and my concern really comes from this, and recently we've had some talk about a structure that was built near Nick Shannon Park that has, caused a little bit of a hubbub. So I'm just a little hesitant to feel comfortable allowing, the potential for something to be built without really knowing what it is. That's my concern, and I feel kind of a responsibility for me to maybe, to hesitate on voting without seeing it respectfully. But yeah, so I'll leave it at that.
Councillor Labonte, I feel your stress there. There are master plans for each of the parks, and the master plans sort of guide everybody for what they're going to build in something. So the trails, things like that are already in the master plan. So it's not like something that came out of thin air.
I had an opportunity to be on the planning commission. I remember going through a master plan of the nature park. For life, I don't recall the birding pavilion.
There was no bird pavilion,
So
but
it
at
wasn't
the
in the
same
plan.
time, when opportunity presents itself, there's money out there for things like that. And we could just walk by it and not ever select it. Or we could, and this has come before the council before. That's why some of you are hearing about it multiple times, is because we already have approved doing this at previous council meetings. But then when council turns over, folks like yourself are not, in the loop from decisions that were made several months ago. So it's been I think it's been a year we've been working on this.
Sure.
So it's not new.
I understand that. I'm hearing different perspectives on the project is all. So I just want to make sure it's a slam dunk for the whole city on that nature park. So that's my hesitation there. And I try to stay in line with some of the things happening at the nature park. But it's interesting, yeah, because I didn't find it. I don't recall it being on the plan, the nature park plan.
I don't think a bird pavilion specifically, but there was language around a viewing platform.
Okay.
In the site plan, because we did look at that too when we originally started this. And I will also share that one of the concerns that staff shared from the onset was we don't want to create a place to attract transients, right? And so I've spent some time Googling. There are some very creative bird blinds out there that you wouldn't even know are bird blinds that aesthetically blend in to the natural aspect of the park. So I think we should trust the process with the community engagement. But I understand your concerns.
And is this something that we'll need a unanimous vote on to move along, or?
We just need a majority.
Thank you.
All right, Councillor Corbett.
Just a comment, and I'm sorry but I'm excited. And last question, I was just looking through your list of birds. Are these birds that have all been seen at the nature park?
Yeah, that's developed from a website that birders use. So they'll visit an area, in this case, the nature park. They'll identify a bird and then they'll upload it to the website. So that's been collected organically. And, there's more than the nature park. There's probably a Meldrum Bar one as well. And I haven't updated it.
I see the website here, so I'll definitely have to check.
Yeah, go to the website.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. And they have it on their phone and they just go boop, boop. Here, I saw this bird today. You have to trust that the birders know what they're looking at.
Right. But when you see a bald eagle, you probably
we have-
should. Have you really? I think that is so cool. I'll be camped up. I'll be the transient camped up there, waiting for the bald eagle. Thank you.
The vultures are impressive too, when they come up from Meldrum, and they're really interesting.
Well, I've had the pleasure of having a red-tailed hawk and a sharp-shinned hawk land on my fence, and it's always interesting. I just love it. So I mean, it's fun to have nature come to you, but it's also fun to go to nature. So this is great. Thank you.
Councillor Corbett is referencing a list that Mr. Eichstadt passed out to us tonight before the testimony, eBird Field Checklist, Gladstone Nature Park. So it's not in your packet, but it's something we could also add to tonight's additional agenda items, along with the presentation we had earlier from Representative Hartman. Councillor Garlington, you had some questions or comments?
Well, I just like to make a comment. one of the things that I'm most excited about this bird blind is coming from a household, growing up in a household that had disabled adults because they were my peers as a child, knowing that they got left in the car when we went out for supper on Sundays sometimes, or we went to lunch and Tebow's would bring lunch out to my grandma and my uncle because they couldn't get him inside the restaurant. My Aunt Lori, God love her, she she had a really hard time walking as she got older and we had to be really careful not to take her on paths that weren't stable for her. This was something I grew up with. So for a family household that has never lived with, seen, or had to travel with a disabled adult or child, I think that this is the best opportunity for us to show our friends and our family that have disabilities that they are included in everything that we do in Gladstone. And I think it's a really good opportunity to show our kids who come up and volunteer at that park that we include everyone regardless of their ability. And this is a prime example of how we can really open up our doors and begin that conversation with kids. So.
And that's great. And to that point, will the motive of this project be kind of promoted in the park? So let's say someone from out of town comes through and they might just see it as a path in a bird pavilion. Is there going to be something to tie to the city's efforts to make it more accessible for folks in wheelchairs? Is that part of the effort here, is kind of bringing attention to these problems and how cities can help with that? Or is it just, we're just kind of laying it out there and letting folks?
Well, it depends on if the city's going to put signage up or anything. We're going to need a handicap parking spot, things like that. This isn't the end of what we do. I was up at the park with Franklin Ochita earlier, and he pointed out a lot of things that could be fixed in our parks. The picnic tables are just standard. They need extra room if there's somebody that, is in a wheelchair and wants to sit at the picnic table. A bench needs an extra piece of cement next to it if they're going to sit next to somebody that's sitting at the bench. I mean, these are simple things, but we're not aware of those things. It takes someone like Franklin and, that can go around and point out, well, if you just did this, this, and this, you could be more inclusive. And so that's my focus, is to make sure that we do the easy things that, will make this more inclusive for folks like Franklin and my cousin in a wheelchair and the neighbors at Webster Ridge that are in powered wheelchairs. I feel like it's our responsibility.
Sure. And in that, the idea, is there, for long-term maintenance, what does that look like? Let's say we're in a situation where fog nap dissolves for some reason years out, or what does long-term maintenance look like for the bird pavilion? Do we have an idea?
Well, we don't want to build it out of materials that need a lot of care. So for example, you'll see even in any of the parks, they're getting away from using wood for structures because it's too easy to tag it or to gouge it or set fire to it. So things like that. And contractors and designers know about this stuff. I think in the future, we're going to see less and less material that can be destroyed because we have that element. It's the way it is. They do things in parks when they're not being supervised. So we're hoping that whatever we build will be indestructible. We know that's not possible, but we'll do the best that we can.
But let's say there's a case where maybe a branch falls or something lands or something breaks. What is the responsibility for the maintenance financially? I'm just wondering.
It's a city park.
So the city will maintain.
It becomes a city asset, yes. And just wait till I bring the trolley trail bridge to you, because that also will become a city asset, and we have to maintain a bridge, which we've never done before. But yes, it does become part of the city's assets.
Oh, I see Chad.
Chad, go ahead. Did you?
I was just going to answer the question that Jackie answered, that under the agreement, it becomes the city's property. But to the extent that you're talking about like a tree branch falling or something like that, because it's city property, it'll be covered by the city's insurance policies. So it's not like the city's going to be solely on the hook for that. Our insurance will cover those kinds of accidents.
Okay.
Thank you.
And FogNap would not be on the hook for it either because they were the group that built it. No, yeah, that's good to clarify that. And speaking of FogNap, you do mention some of the key personnel for the project in the application. Councilor Garlington, you're mentioned here as Gladstone City Council liaison to the city. Technically, we don't have liaisons to nonprofit organizations, but you are the person who we look to on the city council with the most knowledge of this because of your involvement. Some of us have volunteered with some of these other partner groups from time to time, or have donated to them and supported them. But I want it to be clear, it's you're not acting as our official appointed liaison. In that
No, but
capacity.
if you want to buy a plant, come see me in April.
Yeah, I know. That's where we all kind of come together on this. Well, I appreciate the application, the working with Metro, the fact that Metro makes this kinds of funds available, and that your organization is willing to cover that match. And I'm glad for the fundraising that you do and the projects that you do and the support that you get from the community and the partnerships that are a part of this. So as was clarified earlier, we have 2 intergovernmental agreements that this encompasses. And let's look at page 12.2. I think we have 2 different motions that we'll need to do. So would someone like to make a motion?
I will.
All right, Councilor Corbett.
All right, I make a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement between Metro and the City of Gladstone, establishing the city as a government sponsor and permitting construction on city property for the Bird Pavilion project managed by Friends of the Gladstone Nature Park.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved by Councilor Corbett and seconded by Councilor Garlington. Any further discussion? All right, Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Corbett,
Yes.
Counselor Labonte,
I abstain.
Counselor Blaug,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes, the motion passes 5-0 with 1 abstention. All right, and there we have a second motion proposal.
Sure. I make a motion to approve the license agreement between the City of Gladstone and Friends of the Gladstone Nature Park, granting use of a portion of the city property, for the Bird Pavilion project.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved again by Councilor Corbett and seconded by Councilor Garlington. Any further discussion? Tammy, call the roll, please.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Counselor Blaug,
Yes.
Counselor Labonte,
I abstain.
Counselor Corbett,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes, the motion passes 5-0 with 1 abstention. All right, thank you, everyone, for this item. And we're interested in seeing this move forward. I know it has to be kind of coordinated a little bit with the project going on now regarding the accessible trail. So you keep us posted, and I'm sure you'll keep us updated. So thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
can we have a 5-minute recess?
Let's take a 5-minute recess.
Thank you.
I will adjourn as Gladstone City Council temporarily, and we will be re-adjourning as the Gladstone Urban Renewal Agency in a few minutes. All right, we are temporarily adjourned as the Gladstone City Council, and we are reconvening as the Gladstone Urban Renewal Agency. We have 2 items on our agenda. Every time we reconvene as the Urban Renewal Agency, we approve the minutes of the previous meeting. So would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes of our August 12th, 2025 meeting?
I move that we approve the minutes of our August 12th, 2025
I'll
meeting.
second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilor Blaug and seconded by Councilor Huckabee. Any discussion? Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Blaug,
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Corbett,
Yes.
Counselor Labonte,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes, the minutes are approved. And next we have an item of business then. This is a resolution to authorize certain city officials to withdraw or transfer funds from Oregon State Treasury 4650 Urban Renewal with city authority to accept or receive at any time. Jackie, this is a housekeeping matter. Can you just give us a quick explanation?
I'd be happy to. At your last meeting, we had you approve similar resolutions for the city of Gladstone's bank accounts. We have one more account, and it is through Urban Renewal. We hired a new finance manager. So what we're asking you to do is approve this resolution that reaffirms Susan Ledoux and Tammy Bannock, and it also adds Judy Anderson Smith, our finance manager.
All right. Any questions? Would someone like to make the motion on page 14-2?
I move to approve resolution UR 75, authorizing Judy Anderson Smith, Susan Ledoux, and Tammy Bannock as authorized signers to withdraw or transfer funds from Oregon State Treasury 4650 Urban Renewal with city authority to accept or receive at any time.
I second it.
All right. It's been moved by Councilor Levante and seconded by Councilor Corbett. Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Corbett,
Yes.
Counselor Labonte.
Yes.
Counselor Blau,
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington.
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes, the motion passes unanimously. We are adjourned as an urban renewal agency and we reconvene as Gladstone City Council. We finished all the regular business items, so we go to business carried forward. Is there any?
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Okay, business from the audience. We have one member of the audience left after a huge crowd at the beginning, but she has no business to bring before us tonight. So, all right, we come to business from the council. Councilor Mitchell asked to be dismissed or excused for tonight, but she did want me to make sure, and I'm sure somebody else would probably have done this also, but this coming Saturday, October the 18th at 11 o'clock is the grand opening ceremony for the new Oak Lodge Library on the Concord School property, several miles to the north of here. This is the second of two libraries in the Gladstone Oak Lodge Library System, the second two buildings. It is currently open and operating, so some of you have been there and had a chance to see it. And there is a park connected to it, and all of this will be celebrated with music and refreshments and all kinds of things. But the great thing about it is this is the second building of our Gladstone Library system. And even though it's not in our city, and it's somewhat larger than the building that we have in our city, it's in an area that is frequented by our residents. And I just want to encourage everybody who has not been there yet to know that if you're going to Trader Joe's or Walmart or Chipotle or Harbor Freight or any of the other things that are up right in that same general area, this ought to be another destination on your trip because it's really a great place. And so on Saturday, please come and enjoy the ceremony and get another visit if you haven't been there yet, or your first visit if you need to. But Councilor Mitchell, for whom libraries are very important, that's her passion. Really wanted to be sure we got that on the record. So that is her report. And I will start down with Councilor Huckabee and move this way.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually want to thank you for reading the land acknowledgement tonight in honor of Indigenous Peoples Day yesterday. I also want to congratulate and give a big shout out to Councilor Garlington for your hard work in organizing and your impeccable speech at the LOC. And I'm probably going to get the title of this wrong. It was those who came before us or possibly paved the way before us. You did great. Very, very proud of you, and you represented Gladstone very well. Good job. Let's see. Conference was awesome, as it always is. One of my favorite things is networking and, meeting brand new counselors who we've never seen before. And then just kind of learning what's going well for other cities and what may not be going well for other cities. I was able to pick up on a few things I'm hoping we'll be able to discuss as a council later. Things such as improving, or I'll say for Gladstone, maintaining positive relationships between council and city staff, and also some exciting ways that we can improve our community engagement through some social media ideas that were thrown out. So I'm looking to hopefully discuss those in the future. But thank you for the opportunity for us to go, City Administrator Betts. It's always a positive event and proud to show up and represent.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Blau.
Let's see. Well, today I got back from the Pacific Northwest Public Employees Diversity Conference, and that was very interesting. A lot of stuff, trauma-informed communication, and some various other things that I attended, which was lovely. I've also attended the first Metro Future Visions Committee. And wow, the amount of talent and dedication on that team is very impressive. I have a little bit of imposter syndrome going forward. But yeah, it was really interesting, and I'll continue to bring updates as to how that work is going over the next 18 months. The other thing I wanted to bring up is that the Parks Board has a vacancy. If anybody's listening out there still at the end of all of this, and you are interested, please apply.
Thank you very much. Councilor Levante.
All right, I'll be super brief, but the next week, Clackamas County is doing a 20-year transportation safety task force. I'm kind of looking at transportation trends in Clackamas County, and it's really interesting because it's really tying together issues with planning and the different districts we have, and what is transportation going to look like 20 or 40 years out. Or maybe it'll be a big flop and it'll look like the thing that we did 10 years ago. But I'm excited for it one way or the other. And I of course, I'm always interested in people's ideas regarding transportation in the future, what it's going to look like here. And it's a fun thing to talk about. But and I'll leave it at that. And thank you, Gladstone, and thank you to the city staff for the hard work you do and sticking around till 9 o'clock to help us out. So thank you.
Councilor Corbett.
Thank you. Biggest reminder that I have, if anybody again is still listening to us at this hour, is November 4th. Just a reminder for everybody to get out and vote. We've got the Clackamas Fire District annexation on the ballot, so important to get in and use your voice. The other thing is that October is National Bullying Prevention Month. I think that's important, especially what's been going on with our youth in Gladstone, and just providing a little extra support there. So something to be aware of. Lastly, October 31st, we all know what day that is. We are having the Halloween Harvest Festival at the Gladstone Community Center. And then on Portland Avenue in downtown, we're doing the Goblin Gathering. So from 5 to 7. So please bring your children, bring your costumes, and get ready to celebrate.
That's another one of those events with a lot of community partners that come together and do
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
thanks for calling that to our attention. Councilor Garland.
Yeah, that takes a lot of candy, a lot of candy. So October's only just started, and I feel like we've all done so much already. There's so much going on. But I wanted to say thank you to Mayor Milch and Chief Schmerber for your excellent scooping technique at the October 7th fundraiser at Baskin Robbins. That was a lot of fun. And thank you to owner Steve for supporting your own community members. It looked like a great turnout, and I had pumpkin cheesecake ice cream, and it was really good. The League of Oregon Cities Conference was epic. It was everything just came together. It was a lot of hard work, so thank you for that. I was able to attend a few breakout sessions, and one on housing that was kind of an accident because I walked into the wrong room and then couldn't get back out. But one of the things I did learn is how communities are working together with the help of state grants to get buildings built. And it's good to know now that we're not just talking about it. It's things are actually happening. And that's, you know, you hear people say all the time, well, that we've got so much money wrapped up into something across the state. Well, I'm here to assure everyone that it's starting to happen. Maybe not in Gladstone, because we don't have the land, obviously, but in other areas. And the coastal communities are getting those workforce housing places built. So that was a good one. My biggest takeaway this year is to mind my time, because only I know how much time I have. I want to work better with intention, as a goal without a plan is just a wish, and to continue to reach out to people for more purposeful conversations. So like you had said, thank you. Guest speaker Jason Dorsey, he was super original. He brought to light the differences between the millennials, the Gen Zs, the Gen X, and the boomers, and how each of us works just a bit differently. He was really informative in a super fun way. It was pretty engaging. I was able to attend the open house given by Barry Elsner and Hammond, and I got to chat with Ashley and our own Chad Jacobs. And thank you for the invitation. It was a lovely event at a beautiful facility. I was reelected to the Women's Caucus President seat, continuing through 2026. And the caucus has given me so much knowledge just being with other women elected. We have a great room of elected officials and hope to promote more women towards elected positions. And I'll be working closer with Oregon City Mayor Denise McGriff this year to promote membership in both the Women's Caucus and the People of Color Caucus. I would have to say the highlight of my 4 days in Portland was the Women's Caucus keynote on Saturday, Oregon's Legacy, those who helped us fly. Our panelists ended up, we had Governor Barbara Roberts, Oregon Senator Betsy Johnson, and Oregon State Treasurer Elizabeth Steiner. She stepped in, Kate Brown had a family emergency, and so she was unable to join us. My heartfelt thanks went out to her for finding someone on such short notice, and Elizabeth Steiner for stepping up and being part of what I think a lot of people thought was just a great morning. So I was excited, humbled, inspired, and grateful, and more. Giving an introduction to these three women in front of a room, a lot of people, was a privilege and a momentous occasion for me. And I want to say again, thank you to Councillor Huckabee and Councillor Blogg for attending. Your presence meant a lot to me. I knew exactly where you were. So I appreciate that. Just a couple of dates, just so we all remember. Monday, October 13th was U.S. Navy's 250th birthday. That was kind of a good day for our family, fair winds and following seas. The 18th is the library opening. Tuesday is the Metro Mixer in West Lynn, and that really beautiful building they opened. Most of us have been in there, in their old city council or city hall building. Wednesday, October 22nd is our joint meeting with the school board. It's a public event. Thursday, October 23rd is our Clackamas County dinners. That looks like a really good turnout. Thank you to those who did that planning. I'm really excited for this one. Councillor Blogg and I have a West tour on the 28th. Thank you for being able to redo that. That was kind of a bad week for me. Gladstone's Halloween event. Wednesday, November 5th is the State of the County, if anybody's going. That's from 5 to 7. Veterans Day is November 11th. And I thank you all for everything that you do. And Boss's Day is Thursday. So Administrator Betts, thank you.
Yeah, in the 5 weeks since we last met, a lot has gone on. First of all, I want to thank all of you who attended the League of Oregon Cities Conference. It was here in Portland, and I didn't have the excuse that I didn't want to drive halfway across the state like I've said at the other ones. But it is one of those things where we learn from one another. We show our support for one another. We find how much we have in common. And sometimes we're very grateful to find that we don't have things in common with some places. The Oregonian had a great article, I think, in this last Sunday's paper about the 5 smallest incorporated cities in the state of Oregon, some of them which have population of 0 because the only people who really live there live somewhere else most of the time and only come there for part of the year, but they still have special dispensation to have a city government. And the size of their budgets and their staff and everybody in the city just sort of trading off who's going to be a city council in some of these cities that have just dozens of people rather than thousands of people. It was very interesting. And that's the thing where I tend to identify much more strongly with the metro area cities, and that's where my involvement has been through C4 and through the Metropolitan Mayors Consortium. As a member of the West Advisory Committee, I attended a tour that they did of the Three Creeks river bed reclamation project. Can't remember the exact name, but if you're coming out of Costco and taking that exit that takes you back south toward Gladstone, that big green area on the right, there's 3 different creeks that flow through there. And because of all the development around there, a lot of water just rushes through and really doesn't sink into the ground the way it's supposed to. And they are trying to really redo that with some natural recreation of what a riverbed is supposed to do and how it's supposed to function to improve water quality and habitat and all those things. And it's great that West does this. We think of them as pipes and pumps and all of that, but they really want to be sure that the water that comes from the sky ends up in the ground and strengthening and, coming back into rivers where it needs to. And that was a great tour and opportunity. A week later, we had Metropolitan Mayors Consortium lunch, and Mayor Keith Wilson of Portland has been attending that much more regularly than former Portland mayors. And he came to us with a special request that we kind of come together and support his city because of threats of what I felt and some others felt was an unconstitutional use of federal government for what should be a military government for what should be civilian policing. And so some of you saw we had a press conference in Portland, and about a dozen mayors spoke about that and expressed our concerns. And that issue was ongoing, but it was really good, I think, for us to feel that we had each other's backs and that we had Mayor Wilson's back because his city is the one that's taking the biggest brunt of this. I was glad to be part of that. We have a couple events coming up. Tomorrow is the last of the solve cleanups that West does, and it's here at 10 a.m. at High Rocks on the Clackamas River. So if you're free and you don't mind getting your hands dirty, that's the last chance to kind of clean up some of the stuff that accumulates during a summer. And I'm glad that they do those around the area throughout the year. I think that's it. Thank you all for staying for a little longer than usual tonight, but we got a lot accomplished and we got good detailed discussion. We got a lot of questions answered, and I think that's important. The public doesn't always see all the details we get or have the conversations that we have with staff behind the scenes to help us be informed on this. But when we bring up good questions that reflect the concerns that members of the public might have, I think it helps people feel like our decisions are well informed and it's more open and more transparent. And I think it's a positive thing. Chad Jacobs, thank you for being there for us tonight and all the work that you do for us in a variety of projects. Administrator Betts, we're grateful to you, to your leadership, and Tammy as well. And Nicole, thank you for coming here and keeping the school board informed about what's happening in the city. So we are getting on to 9 o'clock. Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
All right, it's been moved by Councilor Levante and seconded by Councilor Blaug, we'll say. I don't know, everybody. All those in favor, Tammy, call the roll.
Councilor Huckabee.
Yes.
Councilor Blaug.
Yes.
Councilor Levante.
Yeah.
Councilor Corbett.
Yes, please.
Councilor Garlington.
Yes.
Mayor Welch.
Yes. So we made it before 9. We are adjourned at 8:57 p.m. Good night.